should have fixed mindset on the thingy. Fixed or
Okay,
growth.
we are live. Sorry, Kat, caught you off guard there a little bit. So good
Yeah.
morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Another Monday, here we are. Today we are going to talk about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So basically the mindset for success, and when we are in a fixed mindset, how it can hinder our success or hold us back. So good morning, Kat. I guess it's evening for you.
Afternoon for me. Late
Yeah.
afternoon. Yes. Yes, a fixed mindset is very, very sad place to be. In fact, I have a couple of people who I love dearly stuck in this mindset, and well, you know, it's a very much a blame and shame game. It's very much pointing fingers. It's very much you know, it would be okay, but it's always you always do this, or you know, it's I could do that, but you know, you always make it wrong for me, or you never support me, or you know, it's very very difficult. And you try and give tools to these people, you know, because they like, oh, it's all right for you because you're so lucky, you know, it's okay for you because having been in a fixed mindset, I'm talking from things that I can see because I've been there and I know what I use to get out and to get into the growth mindset, which I'm in now, thank goodness. And you know, it's very, very painful when it's people you really love dearly. Now, when it's your clients and customers or friends, even, that's completely different because you can, you know, you're not so, I mean, we're talking about my children and people like that. So obviously this has a direct effect on me, and nothing, you know, worse than a girl's wrath against her mother. It's really terrible. And, you know, and I lived that for years with my own mother. So, you know, it's like history repeating itself. And, you know, and so whatever you say will be misconstrued, and you know, she's at the bottom, whatever. But when it's a client or, you know, friend, you can sort of you can detach yourself and try and talk to them in a different way, and they might have an understanding, a point of understanding. But the other day I did get through to someone and I said, you know, it's like an alcoholic. Until the alcoholic actually says, you know, okay, yeah, I am an alcoholic and I do have problems. Let's see if we can solve them. It's the same for the mindset. If there's consistently, you know, blaming and shaming and pointing fingers, nothing you can do or say, no matter how, you know, they will always turn it around to their advantage, which unfortunately is not an advantage at all. Sorry, I didn't know where that came from. It just came to
No, let it out. Just be real. Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And the reason that someone in a fixed mindset is going to blame and point fingers is because they feel stuck. They feel trapped. It's the fixed mindset is when someone believes that their abilities and their traits, their personality, their strengths, their weaknesses, stuff like that are all fixed. That they have what they have, and that's just that. And a lot of the time, like, it can start quite young. Like in high school, we think that someone who's getting straight A's and who is, you know, topping all their classes, really good in sports, really popular, that they're going to leave high school and be really successful. And a lot of the time you'll see that it's the opposite. And what's happened is they will fall into a fixed mindset thinking that they have it all because of that success in early years. And it will cause them to fear stepping out of their comfort zone and taking risks. And when we aren't stepping out of our comfort zone and we're not taking risks, we're not growing, and we're staying the same. Well, we can't be the same in high school as we can in real life, and that's just the way it is. You know, that's just one example. So yeah, when someone is blaming other people for everything and pointing fingers for all their problems and all their challenges, it's because it's easier to blame something else outside of themselves when they feel like they can't do anything about it or they're helpless. But when you use the resources and you understand that through mentorship and coaching and being in surrounded by people who are successful or who are positive, or it doesn't matter if they're good at being a mom and you just want to be a better mom, so you hang out with that person that you aspire to. It's really that simple. And when we surround ourselves with those people or whatever, and we think that we can be better in every aspect of our lives, that's the growth mindset. When we know that our traits and our abilities are not fixed. We don't just have what we have. They are moldable. And that's the difference. And when we believe that our abilities are moldable and that we can change certain aspects about ourselves to be the person that we want to be, then we don't catch ourselves fearing as much and having so much anxiety over the things that we can't control, because we know that we can be better. We can be better people. And it's really comforting. I know for myself, like, I have had a bit of a rough patch in my life, like lately, and it's my mindset has really kept me positive through the whole thing, just knowing that life is throwing me something that I need to experience, and if I look at it that way, then I can take lessons from it, as opposed to really feeling sorry for myself and pointing fingers and, like Kat was saying, the blame game, right? So it's really vital to know the difference, like to be able to decipher between the two, of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and staying in that mindset, in that growth mindset, through listening to books and using resources, finding mentorship, surrounding yourself with people who are where you want to be, or who are going where you want to go, or the people who you want to be.
What would you say? Sorry, can I cut you here? You're on a roll. What would you say was the tipping point? How can you change from a fixed to a growth? How do you change that around?
I think that I think it really takes, like anything else, I think it takes like hitting a rock bottom, like getting to the point where you just have nothing left, or you're either, no, actually, you know what? It's you either get highly inspired or deeply desperate, where you're put into a situation in your life or something where you have to take action. And once you just take a little bit of action, you start to see what you're capable of. And the only reason I say that, and I'm not 100%, like, this is just my opinion, is because that's how I found myself in a growth mindset and falling away from the fixed mindset. Because as I started to experience that I could step out of what I was doing or what I was experiencing in my life and actually change it, then it's just like a domino effect. You meet this person who recommends this book, you read half that book or 4 chapters of that book, and you all of a sudden this other book comes into your life, or this other person comes into your life, or an ad comes into your life, or a new relationship comes. Things start to come. My sinuses are stuffed, just so if I sound a little hollow. So things start to come into your life because you start to attract those things. So it starts really, really slow, and it goes from there.
Yeah, but okay, so you have to hit rock bottom. So when you're at rock bottom, what makes you different from someone else who will go towards that fixed mindset, away from that fixed mindset towards the growth mindset? How can you explain to someone, how can you give tools to someone who is in that, like, for example, generally you have to leave a certain core area of friends because you're just changing. But if you plug yourself back into that, how could you possibly, what was the determining factor? What was the thing that made you, where was that line in the sand moment where you suddenly went, whoa? What woke you up to this possibility?
That's a really good question.
Because I was just thinking that's what the listeners are going to ask. It's like, yeah, it's all very well to say this, but what was it for you? What gave you? And I think, like you say, mine was I didn't realize I was at rock bottom. I think I thought everything was hunky-dory, and I didn't realize what I was in. And then I was just doing, but I was already on this path of, well, I've always been on the path of, self-enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, personal development, always wanting to better myself anyway. And even though I was surrounded by people who kept telling me that I was not good and I was not this, at least the one thing that did save me was that I could not be without a book in my hand. Okay, you have audio now, but I had to have a book in my hand. I had to be, constantly reading, constantly keeping my mind active, with positive stuff, with romantic stuff, whatever stuff, to stop it going down that horrible road of, you know, how useless I was, etc., etc., etc. And I think it was just a simple exercise for me that really sort of, I don't know where this feeling came from, but it was just a simple exercise of, you know, that one does, and where you're filling out, you know, you're who you are like as you look around the 10 people you're around, and that's basically who you are, you know, because you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. So for me, it was like just doing that one sheet experiment with that Jay does, and you know, I was just noting the people that were in my life, and somehow that forced me to stop, take a stand, and as I was writing them, I didn't know this was happening. I just stopped writing and looked at this piece of paper, and it was like a kick in the face, a kick in the gut. I mean, my whole body just went, ugh, you know, because I knew something in me clicked. So I don't know, that was for me, but I'm very curious to know what your son, you know, and then I started looking around and, you know, seeing what the horror of my life and what I was in. And, you know, that's the first step, is you not only have to sort of, I feel like, you know, you're going in a downward spiral. You have to like literally stop yourself from going down that rabbit hole and going, whoa, you know, so you're grabbing onto whatever you can. And then you have to actually look, shit, I'm in this rabbit hole. What am I doing? You know, and then you have to sort of claw your way out of this rabbit hole to the air that's out, you know, above there. This is the image I lived and I went through. So that's the image I have. But it really came down to, I don't know why this particular, and it wasn't the first time I'd done this exercise, right? So maybe you need to do things, you know, 3 or 4 times before it sort of hits you in the face, or before your brain is willing to accept what you're looking at. Because for me anyway, the minute I saw this piece of paper, I knew I had to leave my husband of, you know, well, at the time it was 25 years, and I didn't want to do that. So for the next, you know, so many years, 2 years, I think, I really tried to take him with me, to make him move, to try and make him, you know, these things we're saying, like, you know, and until alcoholics say, you know, oh, I'm an alcoholic, there's nothing you can do. So I was trying to do all these things, trying to do all these while I was working on myself. So it wasn't, you know, foolproof, this stuff really works and all this. And again, to this day, people don't listen unless you have a monetary, you know, monetary outcome to it. So I'm now working on this. So people listen a bit more, you know, a big monetary gain. They're like, yeah, well, it doesn't work yourself. Well, you know, you're still where you're at. And you're like, well, no, I'm not. Look, I've progressed, you know, so much. But people just don't listen as much as if you can say, well, you know, I'm making 20 million a year, and, you know, now look at me, which, okay, but I'm hoping, I don't know, that's why the question is, well, what was it for you? You know, was it something you looked at before and it just one day clicked in? Was it, you know, what was it for you that made this click?
That's a really good, as you speak that, I think about, like, I try and put myself back in the day, like before I really started in developing myself on a daily basis. And for me, it was what woke me up. And I can't pinpoint a certain like time or situation, but I remember realizing that I felt betrayed by the one person who I had given myself to. Everything. I had committed completely, 100% to. And it wasn't his fault. This was all a huge learning curve, right? Obviously, there is blame to be had, but it was when I really truly realized that I felt betrayed and I couldn't actually trust this person. That's when I had to realize that I was actually responsible for me. And it was a really slow process. I was like, you know, crying myself to sleep every night, blame, 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 blame. Like, I was always blaming. Every single thought that came into my head, probably 90% of my thoughts in one day, every day, was just blaming this other person. And yeah, when I realized that nothing was going to change, I so desperately wanted that when I realized that the life I was seeking with this person wasn't going to happen, I just slowly started to take action towards getting away from that life. And even though some of the actions that are some of the things that I did weren't they weren't exactly what was needed, it was just taking a step forward and taking a step forward one at a time, whether it was the right action or not, that led me to where I am now. But that, I think that's a question that I would like to put more thought into. I think it's something that it's a good thing to look back on and really figure out, because when we catch ourselves, like I know for the last couple of weeks for myself, I've been in a bit of a place where I catch myself going back to these negative thoughts, and but then all I have to do is put an audiobook on, you know, and even though that person's not in my life, it's teachings that help me pull myself out of that bullshit mindset that keeps me down, that makes me feel sorry for myself. It's a really, I actually find that question really hard to answer, because I don't remember a specific time or a specific event that made me start pulling myself out of it. I just remember just waking up and realizing that I was so miserable, and that what I was wanting with this other person, I was never going to get. And that the only option was to start taking action to separate myself from that life, the life that I was in.
Were you already with SFM when you started doing this?
No.
At this relation?
No, so, I wasn't. It was the steps that I took to get out of it that led me to SFM. Because the one thing I had in my life that I loved was fitness. And so, of course, when I felt helpless and felt like I really had nowhere to turn, I had my son. I didn't want to just go get a job where I was working 12 to 14 hours a day. It's nearly impossible to do that and have childcare. And I felt trapped. So for me, entrepreneurship was the only option. And so I went and got my personal trainer specialist certification, and thought, I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. You know, I just went and got it, and then I was going to work at the gym here, and I didn't want to do that because I'm still trading time for money. And I went and got it before I even thought about what I was going to do with it. And then I decided, well, I can do it online. You know, there's tons of personal trainers online that build programs for people and have clients online, and I can do something like that. So then I started looking through that, and I realized that to do anything online, you have to know how to market. You know, you have to know how to market, or you're just going to waste a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of money. And so I knew I needed a mentor. And yeah, well, my keyword was digital marketing, and then it was digital marketing mentorship, and yeah, a ad of Jay came up, and that's when I found SFM.
Wow. So there you have it, guys. Nutshell.
What's that?
I said there you have it, guys, in a nutshell. I think no, I think it's much more interesting. Well, sorry, this personal angle for me, because it took me ages to work out that line in the sand moment, you know, and I find it bizarre that you're like, yeah, I need time. Well, not bizarre, but it's recomforting for me because it did take a long time.
It's like you feel a bit clouded, you know, when you've come so far and then you have to put yourself back in that situation. It's really difficult to think about what you were thinking, you know, and where your mind was, because I know for me, the mindset that I've developed to this point,
yeah,
it's hard for me to even fathom that I was such a victim. I had such a victim mindset, and it's hard for me to even fathom that at this point, you know, because I've pulled myself out of it so much. And I think here, like, just to pull this full circle, is the, like, okay, so the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. I think for like a viewer right now, if you're viewing this, I think the first step is just to ask yourself, start paying attention to your thoughts. You know, like, am I where I want to be? Is it my fault? Is it someone else's fault? Just ask some questions. And if you become aware, like, you can become aware of this by watching something like this and just becoming aware of it. Like, holy, like, I do think that, you know, I didn't realize that I could grow and I could be the person I want to be. It's just taking those small steps towards doing it, like reading a book. You know, so there's a lot of people in my life that wouldn't know a self-help book if it was laying in front of them. And those kinds of books have changed my life. So for me, it's mind-blowing. But for some people, it's a mystery. How I'm so lost and I'm so scared and I'm so miserable. I hate my life. What am I gonna do? It's like I could simply put a book in front of you and say, just read this book. It's the first step. Whether you understand it, whether you can practice it, none of that is even relevant. It's just starting to look beyond your influence and beyond yourself, and realizing that there are teachings and there are coaching that you don't have to pay a lot for. If you're willing to actually pay attention to yourself, you have to know that the mindset is where you start. Nothing in your life is going to change until you start changing your mindset. And that is like, that's a fact. There's you look at absolutely anyone who has gained success, who's gone from nothing to something, even if it's just something small. Something in the mind had to change for that to happen. Nothing happens without mindset change. And if you're surrounded by negative people and people who are not living that life, all you need to do is go on Amazon and order a book. You can search good self-help books and just choose the first one that you like the title of, and that can be your starting point. And then from there, it's your journey. You know, it's only becoming aware, stepping onto that journey and taking it and riding it wherever you go. And then it starts to happen. You start to learn, you start to things and people start to come in your life that you will start attracting because you just stepped onto that journey and started to change a few things. So that's if you are in a fixed mindset, I think just become aware of it and just make that choice to say, I can be better and I'm going to be better. First, one step at a time.
Yeah, it's a very good, lovely point. You can also just go and listen to the stuff on YouTube also. You can
absolutely.
I think we've come about full circle. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us also. We're here to help, obviously. You know, never hesitate to leave comments, reach out to us, you know, privately, personally, on the Sit in Your Power page. You can private message us. You know, lovely to help anybody and everybody. It's really grand. So,
and have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks a lot. We're waiting for your feedback. Love to read your messages. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.